Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Whitney Houston, Sir Elton John and George Michael all have in common? The answer is they've all worked with our next guest this morning, Rudi Dolezal. Rudi is behind some of the most iconic music videos and documentaries and was with Freddie Mercury in his final days. And we are thrilled that Rudi joins us this morning from Miami. Rudi, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, hello. Thanks for having me.
So how does someone end up working with these extraordinary artists? Where did it all start for you?
Well, it started in Europe. I did a documentary on the Rolling Stones, and Mick Jagger and Keith Richards saw it way back in 1982, loved it, and hired me for a Rolling Stones video. Then I did Rock Me Amadeus, remember Amadeus, Amadeus, a worldwide hit around the world, and then came Queen, and the whole thing took off.
And speaking of Queen, you're writing your book, My Friend Freddie. How did you and Freddie Mercury meet and become such good friends?
Well, actually, it was through an interview I had to do for German TV, but we hit it off right away. And I was hired for the first Queen video, which was One Vision. And 32 Queen videos should follow. So it was through work, but in the end, it was a friendship.
And what do you think was so brilliant about Freddie? Why do you think he was so gifted?
He was very funny, he was very witty, he was very fast, he was very intelligent. He was an artist in the Bohemian sense. He was not only a musician, he was into literature, into visual arts. I mean, you could talk with him about anything. And he was a very sensitive and lovely guy. And it's a pity we don't have him around anymore. But what he really was also is the first real great performer on stage. I mean, they invented stadium rock before the Rolling Stones, and I worked with the Stones. And he had one of the greatest voice ranges for a man that rock music ever had.
As you mentioned, it was just so awful when he did die. Did you have, you knew him in those final sort of days. How was he? How was his sense of what he'd accomplished and I suppose his sense of himself in those last sort of weeks and months?
Well, I have to tell you, I had great respect for the performer Freddie Mercury because I filmed him when he had a whole stadium in the palm of his hand. I had great respect for the singer and for the recording artist, but the biggest respect I had how he was treating the illness, because he would have had all the right to be a difficult person, but when we filmed the last videos, all of them which I had the privilege to direct, he was the nicest guy. He didn't want to be a burden, although I know he had lots of pain, and he was just a lovely person. And I always thought, well, if I have to face such a horrible, horrible fate, I hope that I'd be a gentleman and such a great person like Freddie, because how he treated the illness, not letting other people know how dreadful he must have felt, that was really the great man that I admire until today.
Rudi, you've worked with so many incredible artists, including, of course, the late Freddie Mercury. Do you have a favourite? I know that's probably quite a difficult question to answer.
It is, but I mean, it's like, which is your favourite kid? I'm a father of two. No, Whitney Houston, very special. Rolling Stones, very special. Bruce Springsteen, Queen, and then also Australian bands, because I worked with Yothu Yindi and Midnight Oil.
Wow. We're just looking at that pantheon of stars you've worked with. Mick Jagger, I'm obsessed with Mick Jagger, like half the world. What's he like when the cameras are off and the lights are down?
Well, Mick is a very, very clever a businessman, a clever guy. I mean, my good friend in the Stones, to be honest, is Keith Richards. He's a man from the heart. Yeah, Keith is actually, I mean, when he's here in Miami, we always go for a drink. But, I mean, I was actually a Stones fan and not a Queen fan, which is funny because I ended up directing 32 Queen videos and a few Stones videos as well, but I was never a Queen fan. The Stones, for me, are the rock and roll itself. They invented, like Keith Richards once said in an interview, sex and drugs and rock and roll, the Rolling Stones invented all three.
That's right. Are you sure it was just a drink you went for with Keith Richards? Because things can escalate very quickly when you're hanging out with Keith.
Yeah, I'm just watching him drinking because if you try to drink with him, you always lose, you know.
Rudy, going back, of course, to the great Freddie Mercury, what did you think of Bohemian Rhapsody? Do you think that was the way Freddie should be remembered? As you mentioned earlier, he was such an extraordinary performer.
Well, as you know, I'm writing a book in the moment, which is called My Friend Freddie, and I was invited to the world premiere of Bohemian Rhapsody by my friends, and I told them then, because they were very uncertain, I said, what you did with your film, which is, by the way, parts of it are based on things that I had with Freddie. For example, I'm Just a Rock and Roll Prostitute is an interview that I did with him. I said, you are opening up the Queen music to new generations, and for that, the film is grandiose. I would have liked to have a little bit more humor in there, because Freddie was a really funny guy.
I was going to ask you, Rudi, if there was one thing that you think that maybe Bohemian Rhapsody had left out, if you were making that film and there was one thing that you could tell people about Freddie Mercury that they didn't know, what would it be?
Well, that he was very funny, and in my book, My Friend Freddie, it's full of untold stories. You know, I waited 25 years. It's not easy to write a book on a friend, and I do it for two reasons. Number one, I want to give the fans something back, because I have a lot of stories that nobody has told, and I haven't told so far. And then I also think that he wants me to do this. I feel it, that he says, Rudi, come on, do it.
Well, the words of the great Freddie Mercury, you're my best friend, Rudi. I'm sure he's saying that right now.
Well, I mean, every day I'm finishing, I'm almost finished. I do something which has never been done, I think. While I'm still writing the book, I'm giving the fans the chance to pre-order it. A book that's not even finished, an autographed version. And because Freddie said, you know, without the fans, we are nothing. You know, he was always very, very conscious of that the fans have to be happy. And if you think that there is 16 million Queen fans registered around the world, including Australia, then you know that he probably did something right, and Queen is doing something right.
Indeed. Rudi, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Studio 10. It is much appreciated. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.